He drove into the Wentworth area, as was witnessed on surveillance video later. John was going to the residence where Alana Jenkins and Sean McLeod lived, which was on Hunter Road in Wentworth. Upon arriving, John killed Alana and Sean by shooting them. In an unexplainably shocking move, he then shot and killed their 2 Labradors, Bama and Remy. For reasons completely unknown, John stayed in Alana and Sean's home for about 3 hours, apparently hiding out. Tom Bagley, Alana and Sean's neighbor, was out for a morning walk and saw their house, blazing with flames visible. Without thinking, he approached the home to see if there was something he could do to help. The moment John saw Tom, he shot and killed him. About 6:30 a.m. Sunday, April 19th, Mary, John's wife, emerged from the woods and knocked on a neighbor's door, tearfully explaining to him what happened, asking for help. The neighbor immediately called 911, and when the police arrived, Mary explained that John was driving an RCMP replica cruiser and was wearing an RCMP uniform. It was the first time police could be sure of exactly what was happening, or more importantly, by whom.
It wasn't actually an RCMP vehicle, but it was made to look identical to one, and we will trace back every part of that vehicle to find out how that happened.
At one point during the course of the evening hours, he appears to have been wearing, if not all, then a portion of a police uniform, and that we believe that he was driving at one point a mock-up or a vehicle that was made to look like an RCMP police cruiser.
John was spotted again at 9:43 a.m. on Highway 4 and Highway 426. There, John shot and killed an innocent woman, Lillian Hyslop, who was walking along the road in Wentworth. Minutes later, at 9:48, he drove to a house owned by some individuals who knew who John was, although the relationship was not clearly defined in our research. The home is in Glenholm, on Highway 4. When he arrived, John approached the house and knocked on the door. However, the homeowners didn't go to answer the door. They were home, but they saw the tweeted news alerting of the active shooter, and they were frightened. John kept knocking, and then he started to yell, quote, "Come out with your hands up," trying to make it seem as if he was a legitimate police officer there to arrest someone. Undeterred, the homeowners still didn't answer or respond to the knocking, so John left. As he was driving away, the people inside called 911. At 9:57 a.m., surveillance video shows John driving east towards Debord again. He arrived at 10:08, driving on Highway 4, where he proceeded to pull over a car on a fraudulent traffic stop. He approached the vehicle, driven by Kristen Beaton, raised his weapon, and shot and killed her. Moments later, he pulled over another car, driven by Heather O'Brien, and shot her too. Between 10:16 and 10:20 a.m., John was observed on video, yet again, going through Truro to take Highway 2 to Millbrook. At 10:25, video shows John stopping and exiting the car. He took off his jacket and put on a reflective vest. Once he changed, he hopped back in the car and proceeded south on Highway 2.
RCMP are requesting more ambulances, probably one more coming, and then at least one more standby.
RCMP constables Heidi Stevenson and Chad Morrison communicated over the police radio and decided to meet up to set up roadblocks at Highway 2 and Highway 224. Chad arrived first and waited for Heidi. He noticed a marked patrol car approaching, and assuming it was Heidi, he eagerly awaited her presence. John slowly cruised up to Chad's patrol car and immediately opened fire. Startled, Chad hit the gas, flooring it in an effort to flee the scene as quickly as possible. Chad raced to a nearby paramedic station that happened to be vacant. Knowing that the shooter wasn't far behind, Chad took his service rifle and went to hide behind the building. Unfortunately, Chad was injured, having been shot in his arm and shoulder. He was able to radio to dispatch that he was shot and needed help. He sat, tensely waiting at the paramedic station until an ambulance came and picked him up. Luckily for Chad, his protective vest saved him from wounds to the chest and abdomen. On the other hand, Heidi wasn't so lucky. She was driving north on Highway 2 when John collided with her head-on as she was racing towards the danger. After the crash, Heidi and John exchanged gunfire, but John managed to shoot and kill Heidi. In a final act of disrespect, John stole Heidi's police-issued 9mm Smith & Wesson pistol.
We're just overhead of vehicle fire at the exit on Highway 2. It's actually, it looks like might be a police car involved. There's some other police vehicles there. We just wanted to bring it to your attention.
There was a witness to the accident. A man named Joe Weber stopped to see if he could offer assistance after the accident. John immediately shot Joe, killing him instantly. He set the replica cruiser and Heidi's cruiser on fire and sped off in Joe's silver Chevy Tracker, heading east on Highway 224. John stopped at a home owned by a woman he knew. After exiting the stolen car, he walked straight into the house and shot and killed the woman. Immediately thereafter, he took off the police uniform and put his guns and magazines into the woman's car, a gray Mazda 3. Heading back towards the highway, John began to travel south on Highway 224 when he suddenly noticed that the Mazda's gas tank was nearly empty. Stopping for gas, John entered the Irving Big Stop in Enfield, Nova Scotia, and filled up with gas. As he was pumping, a member of the RCMP emergency response team recognized John as the shooter. He was a wanted man. The officer exited his vehicle and instantly started exchanging gunfire with the shooter. At 11:26 a.m., John was pronounced as being in custody. He was dead.
Roger, we have reports of the suspect down at the Enfield Big Stop.
I just happened to drive by the Irving and I seen this SWAT team come in and park beside the pumps, and the fellow got out of the passenger side and he just read out in front of the car and out with his gun and just opened up right through the windshield of the car. All I could hear was gunshots.
That Big Stop is always full of seniors in the morning for breakfast. Like, that place is full every day. So being a Sunday, that he could have done a lot of damage. So I'm glad that the restaurant was closed. It touches you right here, you know what I mean? It's scary.
John carried 2 handguns with laser sights and had in his possession 2 crates of hand grenades. He had stored the hand grenades at one of his properties. The Colt carbine rifle was discovered to have come from a gun shop in California, and the 2 semi-automatic handguns. The Colt carbine rifle was discovered to have come from a gun shop in California, and the 2 semi-auto handguns were from a gun shop in Maine. Lastly, the Sturm Ruger Mini 14 rifle came from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Each of the weapons was obtained illegally. A witness later stated that John had a hidden compartment under a workbench in the warehouse on his property, which contained a high-power rifle. John didn't have a firearms license. In fact, he never had a firearms license. Also in John's arsenal were at least 5 high-capacity magazines that held 30 to 40 rounds each. They were most likely smuggled into Canada through the United States. The damage John caused is immeasurable. Numerous cars were found, flaming from the fires he started. 2 people who personally knew John told police that he had recently purchased about $800 worth of gasoline and propane cans before the destructive frenzy. While so many shootings that we have covered had a specific group or demographic targeted as the victim, this shooting was more personal in a sense. John knew some of the victims. Police even believe that the victims he knew were killed over various disputes. Disputes that in the grand scheme of things are rather petty.
We have an active shooter.
We have an active shooter.
70-year-old Joy Bond was murdered in a house fire. She perished alongside her husband, 74-year-old Peter Bond. Joy had a contagious laugh and was known to be the life of the party. Peter had a smashing sense of humor and just loved telling stories about his past. Cancer survivor Gina Goulet was 54 years old when she was senselessly taken out of this world. Gina was a denturist for 27 years, though it is unknown if she ever knew the shooter since they were in the same professional field. Elizabeth Joanna Thomas, who went by Joanne, was also killed in a house fire with her husband, John Zack. 59-year-old Joanne moved from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Portapique in 2017. It was where she chose to spend her well-deserved retirement with her United States Navy veteran husband, John. 42-year-old Corey Ellison lived in Truro, and fate had brought him to Portapique that day to visit family. Corey was described as thoughtful and kind, and a true friend to all. Frank Galenchin and Don Madsen were another couple that chose to retire to the picturesque community of Portapique. Don retired in 2019 from Hillsdale Terrace, which is a long-term care home. Frank followed his wife to Nova Scotia for retirement. The loving, kind man was killed alongside his love, burned alive in their retirement home. Aaron Tuck was 45 years old and lived with the love of his life, 40-year-old Jolene Oliver. The couple shared a 14-year-old daughter. They moved to Nova Scotia about 2 years before their death. Aaron's mom, who was originally from Calgary, was sick, and they wanted to be close to help take care of her. Jolene and Aaron met while she was waitressing in Alberta. The longtime loves died in a house fire together, with their beloved daughter, Emily Tuck. Emily was the youngest of the victims. She died much too young, and had a promising future as a violinist. But what Emily really loved was spending time with her dad, fixing up old cars. Alana Jenkins and her life's love, Sean McLeod, were murdered together. It was fitting that they would go together because they did everything together, even work. 44-year-old Sean was a Correctional Service Canada manager at a federal prison, and 36-year-old Alana was also a Correctional Service Canada manager. The couple was deeply committed to public safety. 70-year-old Tom Bagley was Sean and Alana's neighbor. He died as a hero, trying to do whatever he could to help his neighbors in peril. Tom was an airport firefighter from 1975 until 2006. Helping others was just what he did. Tom was killed 2 days before his birthday. 49-year-old Lisa McCulley was a teacher at Deborah Elementary School, whose life's passion was teaching her students, not just in their schoolwork, but also in teaching students about life. She was shot and killed while trying to protect her own, and her neighbor's children. Constable Heidi Stevenson was a 23-year member of the force. Only 48 years old when she was tragically murdered, she leaves behind a husband and 2 children. Heidi is remembered as being warm and welcoming, a genuinely kind woman. Heather O'Brien was a licensed nurse, working for the Victorian Order of Nurses for almost 17 years. Heather leaves behind her husband of 35 years, 6 children, 2 stepchildren, and 12 grandchildren. She was only 55 years old when she was shot and killed. 33-year-old Kristen Beaton's job was caring for others. She was a continuing care assistant, but what's more, she was a wife and mother. Her unborn child also perished as a result of the shooting. 45-year-old Greg Blair and his wife, 40-year-old Jamie Blair, were a lovely young family, robbed from their son in the blink of an eye. The couple was trying to help on the night they were shot, without cause or warning. Greg worked as a gas fitter at G&P Gas and Energy, which was a family business. Jamie's greatest joy was watching her son play hockey and spending time with her family. Innocent bystander Joseph Joe Weber was shot and killed because he stopped driving to offer aid to a police constable who was in desperate straits. A young father of 3 daughters, Joe was only 36 years old when he was murdered. He happened to be out running an errand for his family